சும்மா வச்சுக்கோங்க, வேணா வச்சுக்கோங்க. Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Dear participants, good afternoon to you all. Now may I request Dr. Gurband sir to deliver a welcome address introduction to Honorable Professor. Sir, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Nayamurthy sir. The Department of Commerce is organizing 2 weeks capacity building programs from 3rd September onwards. Today is the 4th day as well as the afternoon session. The title of the program is Data Analysis Methodology in Social Sciences. On behalf of the Department of Commerce, on my own behalf, I welcome the great Professor Dr. G. Jayabal sir. He is the man of innovative research in digital banking. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
I am very happy to welcome my well-known professor, Dr. Jayabal sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
He is the professor of banking and finance, Alagappa University. He highly dedicated. He is working hard for the welfare of the students as well as the faculty members. Sir has more than 34 years of teaching experience and 31 years of research experience. He is the member of our University Senate. Sir has contributing many research in the field of banking, financial services, investment management, agricultural finance, microfinance, behavioral finance, and digital finance and digital banking. Your contribution is really amazing, sir. Sir has produced 7 doctorates and he has presented more than 27 papers in the international conferences and 42 papers in the national conferences. He has published more than 41 international articles in the international journals, 143 journals in the national level journals. He has completed a lot of projects under ICSSR and UGC. He has conducted 67 conferences and 68 seminars, 23 workshops, and 4 refresher programs. He is the member of editorial board member of and also the advisory member of leading journals. He is acting as a chairman of various academic bodies. He has delivered 87 special lectures for the welfare of the students community as well as the faculties. He has evaluated more than 75 PhD theses. He has conducted 46 PhD public viva examinations. Totally, our Professor Dr. Jayabal sir is highly dedicated and hardworking for the welfare of the students as well as the faculty members. He is always very simple. He is the working hard for welfare of the nations. On behalf of the department, on behalf of the department faculty members, Department of Commerce, and the participants, I welcome you, sir. Once again, I welcome our Honorable Professor Dr. Jayabal sir. He is going to deliver the second session, deliver the lecture on the topic of.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Take the session.
Dear participants, 2 minutes just for power shifting, please. 2 minutes. Sir, 2 minutes, sir, please, sir.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
எஸ் சார், ஆரம்பிச்சிடலாமா? சரி. ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே, நீங்கள் முடிச்சுட்டு சொல்லுங்கள், ஆரம்பிச்சிடும். ரெடியாக இருக்கேன். ரைட். அனுப்பிச்சிட்டியாம்மா? இதில் இருக்குண்ணே, இப்போ க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிட்டு வா, இதை எடுத்து இதில் கொண்டு வா, அதானே காட்ட முடியும், கையில் வச்சுட்டு இருக்க முடியும். அதில் ஜாயின் பண்ணிட்டேனே.
Professor, okay, Professor, now. Am I audible, dear participants?
Audible, sir.
Okay. Now may I request our honorable professor to continue the session, sir. Please, sir. Sir, okay, sir. Sir, unmute the mic, sir. Please, sir. Mic, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, okay.
Please, sir.
Very good afternoon to everyone. It's my pleasure to meet all of you through online in the second day of this program. In the last class, in my session, I explained you the intricacies of digital banking. At the outset, I thank the organizers of this program and Professor who has extended a welcome address for me and for his nice words, when he was introducing me also. And today, I would like to discuss the research aspects. Yesterday I was discussing the A to Z of digital banking. The topic given for me to discuss is innovative research in digital banking. Today only we are going to discuss the research aspects. To undertake innovative research studies in the field of digital banking. Since this is the program organized for all the people belongs to social science area, and it is a heterogeneous group which covers students in the background of commerce, economics, sociology, management, banking, etc. For the students belongs to other than banking field, they may not be in a position to understand what is digital banking. That is why yesterday A to Z of digital banking was discussed. Today only I am going to take up the research focus. That is how to do research, to innovative research in the field of digital banking. As I said earlier, banking is a dynamic field. In the past, we had a same banking business in the conventional mode of operation, whereas nowadays the industry has moved to digital system. See, in the name of digital banking, e-banking, etc. Okay. Whatever it is, whatever the name it is, the banking business or operations are carried out with the help of internet through various modes. So we can say the alternate delivery channels like mobile banking, internet banking, etc., etc. Right. What is here the as a research scholar or as a teacher, everyone should have thorough knowledge on three areas such as teaching, research, and extension. As far as research is concerned, how to take up innovative research studies in the field of digital banking. That is the focus of my today's presentation. Right. In the last class, I told you some of the examples for taking up research in the field of digital banking. The many innovations are taking place in this field. What we had in the recent past cannot be holds good, cannot be considered as suitable to either to do business, banking business, as well as to do research, because that will become obsoleted. So it has been replaced by earlier methods, have been replaced by new methods through new technology. So there is a need for to take up innovative research studies. We cannot simply repeat what research studies have been conducted 25 years ago as it is for the today's changed environment, because the environment has been totally changed. So that should be remembered by all the people who would like to do research in the area of digital banking. Here, I would like to quote one thing. When I was a student of banking in 80s, my renowned professor and the resourceful teacher who was head of the department used to say, I am a student of banking. At the time, we wondered why such a great person is saying that he is a student of banking. But today it has relevance. All the people working in the field of teaching the subject banking are learners. Every day we have to necessarily learn the new things, because the changes are continuously taking place in the field of many fields, including banking. So because the people do their business today differently, which is widely differ from how it was did in the past. So the way in which we do the banking business has been tremendously changed today from the past. So there is a need for undertaking research studies in the emerging areas. With this idea, I would like to explain how to take up research studies in the field of digital banking. Today, almost in all the relevant fields of social sciences, people are using different types of research studies. In fact, as far as research is concerned, there are 4 types of research designs are used. One is exploratory type of research studies. Another one is descriptive type of research. Third one is diagnostic type of research. And fourth one is experimental type of research. These are the 4 major research methods are used in research studies. Coming to the social science research, the first 2 methods, exploratory type of research and descriptive type of research, are very often used. Only these 2 types of research studies are mostly used by all the scholars because it has more application in the field of social sciences. Whereas diagnostic type of research and experimental type of research are very much used in the field of science, technology, medical, medicine, etc. So I am going to discuss only the first 2 types of research design for taking up research, innovative research studies in the field of digital banking. Let me discuss the exploratory type of research first. A research design must be appropriate research design must be used for every research. The research studies can be conducted at various levels. Maybe at the undergraduate level, post-graduation level, MPhil, Master of Degree, Master of Research level, Master of Philosophy, and doctoral level research studies are being used by the people. But the research is a research. But we cannot use the entire all the aspects for all kinds of research. For the higher level studies, a higher scale will be used. For the lower level studies, say project study reports, the postgraduate students as well as undergraduate students, they select a topic in the same field in such a way as to manage for their project report or a MPhil to get a Master of Philosophy degree, etc. So in some colleges, people go for group projects. In some other institutions, they encourage independent research studies, whether it is a project report or dissertation work at the Master of Philosophy level and a thesis, doctoral work at the level of doctoral studies. Whatever be the level of studies, the research is a research. We can use higher level of research studies for higher degrees. Whereas for the lower level degrees, we can expect the research scholars to use all the aspects for their project reports because they are the beginners. Similarly, teachers are also taking up research studies as a major research project, minor research projects, funded projects for various other funding bodies, as well as in order to publish their research papers also, normally they do research studies. So the scale they have to use varies from case to case. Coming to the another aspect of research in banking, the research studies in the field of banking can be undertaken either at the branch level or at the bank level, at the state level or national level, district level, etc. or as a whole. There is a possibility. People would like to do research for their project reports. They normally go for selecting a topic in such a pertains to a particular bank or a bank branch. Whereas at the doctoral level research studies or for even for MPhil level research studies, few banks or all the public sector banks or private sector banks or part of private sector banks like new generation private sector banks or old private sector banks or the sector as a whole, people will prefer to consider for their research. So at any level, the research studies can be conducted. Coming to the research design, that is to the exploratory research studies, the research design covers all the aspects of your research. It is a plan of research to be undertaken by the researcher. That starts with the defining the research problem to the conclusion, offering conclusion based on the research findings to solve the problem identified for the research. Let me start with the topic first. How to design a topic? In the last class, I gave you some few examples for taking up research studies in the field of digital banking. Say a study on customers' perception towards mobile banking in public sector banks with a special reference to Madurai district. Say for example, this is the topic. Here, the topic is very precise and complete. So every researcher should see that the topic must be clear cut, and it must be very clear. Without it should be free from any kind of confusion or bias. Here, the focus is on customers' perception towards mobile banking. The aspect chosen for the study is mobile banking. The nature of study is it's a perceptual study because the customer's perception would like to study or investigated. The two, the banks considered for that research is only public sector banks. It has been limited to public sector banks. That too functioning in Madurai district. So all the aspects have been well defined and clearly mentioned in the topic. When a person goes through the topic, he or she must be able to understand what type of research it is, what one can get. Everything must be very clear. Similarly, there are many topics are available. Coming to the exploratory research, the objective of exploratory research is to explore the hidden facts, providing the factual information which is already hidden. By way of exploring the customers' perception, how the customers for banking operations perceive the digital banking activities, say particularly the mobile banking, because this is a new concept as like internet banking, mobile banking, etc. Since we cannot expect all the people to be well versed with the use of mobile banking, of course, the one segment of the consumers, they are really good enough in using mobile banking as well as internet banking. It doesn't mean that all the bank customers are very happy and thorough with the operations and ideology, etc. So, a research scholar may be interested to know the customer's perception towards mobile banking. For that, the problem statement must be well defined. As you know, when a problem has been well defined, it is said that half of the research work will be over. Unless otherwise the problem is well understood by the researcher, it is very difficult to decide what type of details will be gathered, how to collect, what type of analysis should be carried out to get meaningful inferences to conclude, as well as to offer some suggestions to solve such problems. So, with this idea, a statement of problem must be well defined. Then, how to define the problem statement? That is, the theme has been temporarily identified, and how to proceed the research work is a very big relevant question. For the beginners, they find it very difficult to find the answer for this question. However, with the help of their supervisors, they can proceed their work in a methodical way. Research is a systematic process of solving the identified problem with results, concrete results and findings. So, exploratory research tries to find out the solution for the given problem through systematic way of conducting research. That is, what has happened. This is it is only the reality must be reflected. People should not be biased, free from bias. What is happening, what happened, exactly that should be brought into light. The hidden facts must be brought into light. That is the objective of the exploratory research. And descriptive research, another popular method of research design used in social sciences is descriptive research, whether it's in commerce, economics, banking, most of the researchers, they prefer descriptive research, simply to describe. So best example is performance of private sector banks with regards to mobile banking or internet banking, or it's a performance study, maybe an impact study. This kind of studies can be regarded as the descriptive study. The purpose is to just describe what is happening, what happened. Explorative research aims to, after explore the hidden facts, whereas the descriptive study is to find out the answer for the research questions, say to study the performance, to understand, to analyze, to pinpoint, etc. These are the some words we will use in the objectives of study. Based on the problem statements, the research questions are to be, relevant research questions are to be raised. Then the research questions must be converted into research objectives. That in order to achieve the objectives, we have to follow appropriate research methodology. Then nature of data to be collected, analyzed, tabulated, and interpreted, etc. Then the results, the inferences have to be drawn. Collected data will be tabulated, analyzed, then we have to infer the hidden meanings. It is not mere describing the content of the table in words. With the help of the analysis, what one can infer, that should be highlighted. Then the inferences, based on the inferences, one can arrive at conclusions, and if it is possible, they can give suggestions. Coming to the, let me use some slides to make you to understand the aspects. This is an exploratory research design. Let me take the exploratory research first. So the descriptive research should be taken first. Here, these are the contents of the research. That is definition. Define the problem. Well, defining the problem, when we are able to define the problem, we can understand clearly, and we can find out the solution for the problem in a systematic way. Then nature of the study, whether it is whether we are going to use the primary data or secondary data or both, and what kind of study it is, that should be understood. Then aim, what is the objective, what we want to achieve through this study. Then appropriate research design is to be used, whether it is an exploratory study or a descriptive study. That should be mentioned in the research report itself, so that every reader can understand what is the idea behind the research work. Then the kinds of problems should be addressed. Then ethical approach in research. Ethical component, of course, the UGC as well as all the research supervisors, they emphasizes their scholars to follow ethical approach throughout their research studies. Then importance, that can be described as significance or need for such studies. In the first chapter itself, these things will be described: the significance of study or need, in the name of need for the study. Then advantages, disadvantages, sampling method, appropriate sampling methods, etc. to be used. Then data must be collected with the help of data collection tools. Again, to test the validity of the data collection tool, pre-test pilot studies can be conducted at a smaller scale of survey. Then we can go for macro level surveys, and the data can be collected, and collected data must be tabulated, analyzed, interpreted, etc. With the help of course, nowadays, with the help of computers, we can do all these things. And for that, we can use various techniques. Statistical packages are available, say SPSS, There are many packages are available. With the help of these packages, one can analyze the data. Then coming to the what is descriptive research? Just I told you, it is the most widely used research design as indicated by the researchers for their thesis or dissertations and research reports. It is common, it means obtaining information which includes the use of questionnaire or personal interview schedule or observation method, using observation methods may be done through physically or through online. Nowadays, online, there's a possibility for the collection of data through online, like using the Google Forms, etc., or through telephonic survey or video conferencing mode, etc. It can be either participatory or non-participatory. Then it includes studies that purport to present facts concerning the nature and status of anything. That means that descriptive research gives meaning to the quality and standing of facts that are going on. When I explained all these things available in the slide. That is, the collected data must be analyzed with the help of appropriate statistical tools. There are different tools are available: statistical tools, mathematical tools, financial tools, etc. Either we can use the help of packages available or even manually. That depends upon the scale of research you would like to undertake, as well as the precision of the results you would like to get. Then, descriptive research is designed for the investigator to gather information about present existing conditions. See, with the help of the data collection tool, in the case of descriptive research, the investigator has to collect the data, primary data as well as secondary data. As you know that the primary data is the data which have been collected for the first time by the researcher for the purpose of this research. It is a first-hand information, whereas secondary data can be collected from various published sources, net sources, journals, magazines, newspapers, diaries, reports, etc., etc. That is already existing. The already existing details have been collected for the purpose of research, maybe referring the websites of RBI, SLBC, of a particular bank, or the research studies conducted by the bankers for their own purpose. All these things comes under secondary sources. Then descriptive research involves collection of data in order to test the hypothesis. So in the case of descriptive studies, hypothesis testing will become the part and parcel of the study. Hypothesis is, as you know, hypothesis is a tentative statement, the validity of which remains to be tested. And there are different types of hypotheses are available. Testable hypothesis. Usually, the research scholars used to prefer to use null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis. The hypothesis must be tested through appropriate methods, say ANOVA and other methods, chi-square test, etc. But it should be appropriate, and we have to accept or reject based upon or depends upon the calculated value, and accordingly we have to infer. It is not mere arriving at a calculated value, and it should be the meaning of such thing. Whether if we have accepted the null hypothesis, what it implies, that should be described. If the null hypothesis has been rejected, what it means, that is also to be explained. That is a part and parcel of the descriptive research. Then descriptive research determines and reports the way things are. In the case of descriptive research, what is happening, that should be explained without any bias. The researcher should not change the things as he expects. That is a wrong approach. Whatever be the result, whatever be the what is happening in the field, that should be highlighted as it is. That is the objective of descriptive research. It has no control over what is, and it can only measure what already exists. Then descriptive research has been criticized, and of course it has few limitations for its inability to control variables. Here, in the case of descriptive research as well as the exploratory research, we can use two sets of variables, namely dependent variable and independent variable. There is the independent variables are the influences, causative factors. To what extent it influences or causes for the operations or performance or the effectiveness of the particular bank or system or any other things. That is the dependent variable. So the dependent variable depends upon the influencing causative factors. To what extent it influences can be studied through various relevant statistical methods, which have been already discussed by many experts in the previous classes. Then descriptive research makes some type of comparison. Of course, nowadays the same research studies can be a comparative study or a case study. So, for example, the perception of the customers towards internet banking in Indian Overseas Bank at Karakudi. If this is the topic, this is an example for a case study. That is, one particular unit has been chosen, and it paves way for in-depth study covering A to Z of all the relevant aspects. The study must be undertaken and completed meaningfully. So, the same research studies can be conducted either in the form of a descriptive study or as a case study or an evaluative study or an impact study, etc. So, the comparison, contrast, and correlation, and sometimes we can correlate. We can relate the various variables to study the correlation, what sort of relationship exists, can be understood, that can be explored in carefully planned and orchestrated descriptive researches. Cause and nothing but cause and effect relationship. We try to study the cause and effect, causative factor. To what extent the causative factors influences or determines the end results or changes or effectiveness. That aspect will be the dependent variable. So, for example, the performance of a particular bank with a particular reference to mobile banking, internet banking. The mobile banking operations have its own impact and influence over the banking performance. That again, that depends upon the ability of the customers to make use of these modern services using modern gadgets. If customers are well versed with all these things, they prefer to have a net banking account or mobile banking account with their bank. If they are afraid of all these things, they will not prefer to operate mobile banking account or net banking account. So, all these aspects are interrelated to each other. The influence of such factors can be studied on the dependent variable. And another thing is the technology is changing over a period of time. What we had yesterday may not be relevant today. What we have today may not be relevant tomorrow. So, at this juncture, the studies can be undertaken on each and every aspect to explore or describe what is happening, what kind of impact it has created. In the case of impact study, the impact of technology on banking performance or business performance. Say, for example, here it is an example for impact study. We would like to find out whether it has created any impact. If so, whether it is positive or negative. Say, green banking operations. To what extent the green banking technology helps the people to achieve the objective or purpose for which it has been recommended. The basic objective of the green banking technology is to reduce the usage of stationaries and to protect from the CO2. So everything will be done through online in the soft form, so that there is no need for printout unless otherwise it is mandatory. So that we would like to understand how to analyze to what extent it has created impact. Whether this concept is well understood by all the bankers first of all, as well as the consumers, users, stakeholders, then only they can accept and use this concept. Without knowing anything, we cannot expect the people to use a particular technology or concept. Then methods. There are 6 steps in conducting descriptive research. The first step is identifying the problem. Unless otherwise we are clear with the problem, we cannot use appropriate methods, techniques to find out the solution for the problem. A problem well defined is half of the research work is over, completed. Then we have to, in the case of both descriptive study and exploratory research, normally we use literatures. In the area of digital banking, when we are taking up the particular concept for the first time, there is no scope for review of literature. Of course, if there is any research studies have been already completed by someone, or some research papers have been published on this aspect, directly on the particular aspect we have chosen, then only we will have review of literature. Otherwise, what will happen if you are the first person traveling on this route and the problem has been taken for research? There is no scope for review of literature. What is the remedy here? The thing is, you can use review of relevant literature, not directly on the particular aspect. Say, for example, mobile banking. If you are the first person undertaking a research for the first time on mobile banking, there is no scope for existing literature. In this case, you can go for relevant literature. From this relevant literature, what are the aspects have been covered? What are the aspects have not been covered? That can be understood. The main objective of this review of literature is to identify the research gap. The purpose is the research scholars should not beat the track which has already beaten. So everyone should explore new avenues for their research, so that to what extent the aspect has been already discussed, researched and investigated by the researchers in the past. What are the aspects have been left out that can be identified, so that it will be eye-opener for the researcher to select that aspects for his or her own research. Then going to the next one, select participants and instruments. Here the participants means respondents. We have to collect the data from the right respondents. So for example, in the case of a study on net banking and mobile banking with reference to Indian Bank, Tiruchirappalli district. In this case, Tiruchirappalli is a jurisdiction that has been already determined. The bank chosen is Indian Overseas Bank, and the concepts you would like to consider for research are net banking and mobile banking. This is a general study. It's an example for general study. That is how the net banking and mobile banking methods are used in Indian Overseas Bank, that too in Tiruchirappalli district. Here we have clear with the jurisdiction, there is a geographical area, then institution and the digital banking techniques under research. So similarly, here we have to collect the primary data only from the respondents, relevant right respondents, that is the customers who are all using that net banking and mobile banking. If we have collected the primary data from the persons who doesn't have mobile banking account and net banking account, we can simply understand why they have not used such system facilities. There may be some reasons that can be identified and that may be used as an eye opener for make the system simple and suitable as expected by the potential customers or the existing customers. Then coming to the next aspect, select participants, that's okay, and as well as instruments, the research instruments. Here it refers to research instruments, that is how we are going to conduct the research, do the research. As well as it is different from the data collection tool. That is, data collection tool is a tool used for the collection of data. Here I have given generic term, that is instrument. The tool we are going to use to analyze, that comes after collecting the data. First, we have to decide the suitable tool for the collection of data. It may be either a questionnaire, which is different from personal interview schedule, or we can use observation techniques, or we can go for online survey, or the researcher can conduct the go for a survey by himself or herself, or with the help of the enumerators through physical mode. There are various techniques nowadays. Even telephonic survey can be also be conducted, and video conferencing method can also be used nowadays by the researchers in premier institutes. So we have to select the most appropriate technique, tool, and right respondents for the collection of data. Then collect valid and reliable data. The validity of the tool must be tested through pre-test and pilot study. The purpose of pre-test is to know the suitability of the data collection tool to the environment in which we are going to collect the data. That pre-test and pilot study normally will be combined together, and that will be used at the lower scale. See, after deciding the population, you can either you can go for big sample or small sample or big sample. Here, a small sample will be used, maybe 1% of the population. After calculating the sample mean as well as population mean, if there is no wider difference, we can say that our sample size used for that survey is appropriate. And accordingly, based on the experience we have gained, the data collection tool may be modified to make it suitable. That is the purpose of the pilot study. The purpose of pilot study is to scan the environment in which we are going to conduct the survey for the purpose of collecting data. Whether the prepared tool will really suit the condition in which we are going to use it, whether we will be able to get required data for our research. Sometimes the prepared questionnaire or interview schedule may not be suitable because of some of the questions may be relevant, some other relevant questions may be missed out. So that will be understood only through the pre-test and pilot study. So scanning the environment is the purpose of pilot study. To know the suitability of the tool is the purpose of pre-test. Accordingly, there should be the changes are to be made in the data collection tool. Then once the researcher is satisfied with the tool covering all the required aspects, that can be administered and relevant required details can be collected, so that there will be no problem. There will be no problem when we are analyzing the data and to arrive at a solution, a conclusion, and to offer suggestions for the problem we have identified at the first step. Then the data must be analyzed through appropriate statistical, mathematical models, etc. There are very many models are available. Modern techniques and conventional tools can also be used in addition to the modern tools like regression, correlation, ANOVA, Cronbach analysis, and many more techniques are available. Then report conclusion. Then there should be reporting part. What type of style we would like to use to prepare the report? That matters. There are different styles of referencing is available nowadays. APA model and MLA model, Anderson model, like that. Different styles are there. Which style is more appropriate? In social science research studies, mostly Anderson model is the latest model suggested by the experts. Many scholars are using Anderson model. That is slightly different from the MLA model or APA model. So whatever be the model, all are relevant to the present context. But once we have decided the particular model, we should not deviate from that model, and it should not be mixed up with other models. What has been suggested, that should be followed at all stages. Then next, common errors or mistakes made by the scholars whenever they go for innovative research, like any in emerging areas like digital banking. There is lack of participant response. The end users involvement is necessary. That is 100% true in the case of social science research, that too in the case of emerging innovative research. Suppose we would like to study the customers' awareness on green banking in selected public sector banks. A study with reference to Sivangai district. Let me consider this example. Here, we would like to know the customers' awareness. This is a popular concept. To what extent the banker understood the concept first of all, then to the extent to which it has been understood by the customers of a bank, so that it will be successful. So we have to understand the level of awareness of the customers on green banking concept. We already have completed the research. From the research studies, only 30% of the customers they heard about, they aware of this concept. So the awareness level is very less. That is the findings of our research that there has been arrived at through a systematic research study. Here, the data have been collected directly from the respondents who have accounts, say ordinary accounts, say the digital accounts, say mobile banking, net banking, etc. So we have mixed up two types of customers. One is considered as a reference group, another one is for the study group. Here we have compared two groups, opinion given by two groups, and from that we understood the causes for the less awareness or lack of awareness. Then who are the demographic profile of the customers have been collected, and what sort of customers they aware of this new concept, their educational background, their social background, their exposure to modern banking systems, methods, and their ability to use the modern gadgets like internet, mobile, laptop, mobile phone, etc. All these factors are the considered as independent variables. And here we have used two groups. One is control group, another one is study group. Or is one as reference group and study group. We have compared these two. Responses have been collected from both groups, and we have analyzed what made them to go for the mobile banking or internet banking, understanding the green banking concept. The purpose of this digital banking technology is to, one of the objectives is to go for green banking systems operations. This concept has been extended to other fields also: green marketing, green technology, green production, etc. So, reducing the carbon CO2 level so that we will get safe living environment. So, the conventional technologies we use were causes for such problems. So how the modern technologies helps the users to reduce this CO2 so that we can protect the environment. With that idea, that was conducted. So the lack of participants without the respondents' involvement and participation, it is very, very difficult to get the reality, to know the reality. So that the preliminary data must be collected from the right respondents with their cooperation. Every researcher should know the cooperation to be extended by the respondents. Without their cooperation, nothing can be received from the or collected from the respondents. Simply deciding ourselves will not reveal the reality, even though that paves way for analysis, etc., to arrive at some conclusions. That findings may not be relevant without the involvement and cooperation of the respondents. If we have collected some data, we can collect some data, but that can also be analyzed and infer something that may not be relevant answer for our questions. So low response rate are common. Unless otherwise the questions are appropriate, the response rate will be very poor. Even when we use some sensitive questions in our data collection tool, most of the time we may not be in a position to get responses for these questions. So all these things must be remembered by the scholars when they are designing the data collection tool. Then difficulties in interpreting the findings without the data representing non-respondents' views or opinions. So at the time of analysis of data, to infer meanings, the respondents' real contribution ideology must be remembered. Accordingly, the inferences are to be drawn. It is not mere drawing some conclusions from the calculated value, simply comparing the calculated value with the table value and saying something. It is less than or less correlated or linearly correlated or opposite, inversely correlated, etc. To what extent, that is all the most important, for that the responses collected from the respondents will give the answer for these questions. Then unclear and ambiguous items, that is clarity is to be ensured in at the maximum. It should be free from ambiguity. The researcher needs to develop recording forms that collect the data objectively and reliably. The reliability test, of course, many reliability tests are used, content validity, many validity tests are used by the researchers to ensure all these things. Then classification of descriptive research. It can be classified how data are collected. That's one, how data are collected. There is self-report. Individuals respond to statements or questions about themselves. The respondents, they themselves respond to the questions or the statements used. Or observation. In some cases, particularly in the case of psychology, for most of the cases, the data will be collected through observation. Even in the case of marketing, when we would like to study the behavioral aspects, attitudinal aspects of the respondents, say consumers or customers or the buyers, etc. In addition to collecting the details using interview schedule or questionnaire, it is better to go for observation, how they bargain, how they decide, whether they use intuitive decision regarding some investment or to buy something. These things can be studied through observation. So observation is a more powerful, relevant techniques in the field of social sciences. That depends upon the topic we have chosen for the study. Other things, the research design is the arrangement of conditions for collected and analysis of data in a manner that aims to combine relevance to the research purpose with economy in procedure. Simply, I said it is a plan of work to be carried out by the researcher to conduct meaningful research studies to arrive at a conclusion based on the analysis and test results. In fact, the research design is the conceptual structure within which research is conducted. It constitutes the blueprint. The research design itself is a blueprint or planning tool for the successful conduct of research regarding collection of data, measurement of data, and analysis of data, etc. Then, as I told you earlier, there are 4 types of research designs are available in the field of research. First 2, exploratory research and descriptive research, are very much used in the field of social sciences. The other 2 are used in the field of science, technology, medicines, etc. Then, regarding the exploratory research design, the exploratory research studies are also termed as formulative research studies. Different names. Exploratory study is a systematic scientific approach which enables a social scientist to determine whether an idea is in reality or not. Then it explores the ideas, hypotheses, suggestions that might never occur to the social scientist sitting in an office and mediating over the problem. Unless otherwise that the study has been conducted systematically and scientifically, there is no chance for exploring the new aspects by the people simply doing or rendering some services. There arises a need for a research study. That's what the research scholars they are doing nowadays. It must be more flexible. The research scholar should see that the study must be more flexible in the sense whether it's a data collection tool or the analysis, the application of some research techniques, and everything depends upon what sort of data we have collected. Suppose you would like to use one particular statistical technique, the data must be suitable for that purpose. Whether it's a raw data or a group data, etc. The nature of data decides what type of technique can be used appropriately. Unless otherwise the data set is not suitable, we cannot use that particular technique. In this case, we have to go for a suitable method or technique considering the nature of data we have. That is to be remembered at the time of preparing the data collection tool. Sometimes we may have use more of open-ended questions. Sometimes we may have ranked questions, that is 5-point scales may use, Likert scale can be used, so that it will be easy to rank the opinion given by the customers. Sometimes the customer respondents themselves, they rank the responses you have listed. For some cases, there is a need for open-ended questions. You should not influence, you should not mislead the respondents to get a particular type of responses. Knowing these things, we should freely allow the respondents to offer their own ideas in their own styles. Then it should be, we have to find out the relevant techniques which is suitable for analysis and to infer the real meaning. Then done in the field whether there is material knowledge is available. As I told you earlier, if you are the first person identifying that aspect for your research for the first time, there is no scope for review of literature. The review of literature can be bifurcated into 2. Review of the past studies and review of the literature. There are 2 things. Nowadays people are mixing up. Review of past research studies must be the part, one aspect. Review of literature, that is the research papers, the concepts they have already used. Nowadays research scholars, they are mixing up concepts as well as research studies. Conceptual classification must be different from the review of past research studies. Then the exploratory method, according to Courts, an expert in the field of the exploratory research studies, represents the earlier stage of science. This significant observation implies that all sciences must have at the beginning had an approach which is purely exploratory. Even in the field of science, where the observation methods have been used, they have used exploratory studies only. In order to attain research objectives, the exploratory method, as suggested by him, should adopt the following steps. say review of related social science literatures, but are pertinent relevant literatures. It's one of the simplest ways of economizing effort in an inquiry is to review the work already done by others. Survey of people who had partial experience with the problem to be studied. Persons with virtue of the nature of their jobs are in a position to know or throw light on the subject matter of interest of the investigator. So, if there is any past studies, to what extent the study has addressed the issues identified by the earlier researchers, what are the things have been left out, that can be considered for our own research so that we can come out with new ideas, new solutions for the problems. The analysis of insight, simulating examples, are social scientists working in an area which is yet to be explored, emerging area, which incidentally is the usual experience of an innovative social scientist, have found the intensive study of the selected samples to be particularly fruitful method of stimulating insight. See, when we undertake a research study for the first time, it will be definitely a difficult task, tough time for the researcher, because he is a person traveling on this road for the first time. So he has to work hard. He has to collect maximum relevant aspects so that it will be a meaningful research. Mostly the difficulties experienced by the researchers when they explore the new area, one use for research, is they may not be in a position to decide which is relevant, which is irrelevant. They used to collect everything. They will be wondering all the areas or aspects, covering all the aspects. Finally, they will use minimum aspects in their research. The rest of things will not be used. Of course, that will be used for others' research. There will be scope for further research. That is why in social science researchers, the researchers are expected to suggest some unexplored aspects which have not been covered in this research as scope for further research covering some other variables and aspects. Fox has conceptualized exploratory studies at two levels, such as the first is the discovery of the significant variables in the situation. I already told you two types of variables. There is the dependent variable, independent variables. Independent variables are causality factors which will influence or impacting causating factors. So the dependent variable, the success or efficiency or the results, etc., highly depends upon the extent of influence the independent variables have. That can be studied with the help of regression, correlation, and other relevant techniques. The second is the discovery of relationship. Again, I told you between the variables, correlation, regressions, etc., are used very much nowadays. It is imperative for the investigator to delimit the area to be studied, especially at the first level. Already told you in the examples, the geographical area should be defined. That is one is delimiting. Then the institution, whether we are going to cover all the banks or only particular banks, whether or only particular banks or only new generation particular banks or old generation banks, or the aspects. What are the aspects we would like to cover? Whether we are going to cover all the alternate delivery channels under digital banking in our study, practically that is very difficult. So that we can select some of the relevant channels to cover in this study. The rest can be considered as scope for further studies. Some other research scholar can try to conduct the research studies on these aspects. Then it is imperative for the investigator to delimit to narrow down their research studies. Then exploratory studies which do not set limits for themselves have limits imposed by various practical matters. Mostly the results obtained through the explorative study are to be treated as a signpost. It is only a gatepost for future research. And further study in the same or similar line or direction can be undertaken. For this reason, they are known as formulative studies. That is the function of scope for further research. Coming to the when this exploratory research study is relevant or can be used. Here there are 6 conditions when you must define the problem more precisely. When the researcher is able to define the statement of problem for research, ensuring other aspects, we can go for exploratory research. Then isolate key variables and relationships for further examinations. If you are able to categorize the variables into dependent variables and independent variables, that will be the indication that you can very much go for use exploratory research. Then establish, prioritize for further research. What are the things are essential for your research as well as for further research to be carried out in the future by others, covering some other relevant aspects, etc. Then go to gain additional insights before an approach can be developed. We should explore the possibilities to the maximum to undertake this exploratory research in a meaningful way. We should find out whether the data will be available. Even in the field of banking, sometimes scholars, they have, after finalizing their research topic, they are coming with the remark that data are not available. I have tried in all the relevant websites, but data are not available as we expect. That should be done at the early stage. After ensuring the available data, we should decide the statement of problem, objectives, etc. for our own research. Then to develop hypothesis. In the case of exploratory research as well as descriptive research, hypothesis testing is considered as a part of that research work, research design. As I told you earlier, hypotheses are the assumptions or hunches or statements which are used as a temporary tentative statements used, and the validity remains to be tested. That may be proved or disproved. There should be scope for using such hypothesis tests in your studies. That should be ensured. And to identify relevant courses of action. Then the activity plans, action plans are to be prepared. There should be scope for using all the relevant required activities to complete the research work successfully. After ensuring all these things, we can go for exploratory research. Then, in the case of exploratory research studies, how effective they are. Literature survey. If literatures are available adequately, your research study will be more meaningful because the research gap can be identified and you can consider uncovered aspects in your study so that you will be the real researcher. Your research study will be a pakka new one. Then experience survey. In the case of exploratory study, it is if people have some experience, say the experienced people can be contacted. In marketing, we should say that Delphi technique. We can take some advices from the people because they are the experts. In the case of digital banking research, even though we are using primary data, we have to necessarily use some secondary data. Sometimes that may be obtained from through our discussions with the bankers who are all practicing various digital banking techniques. Bankers, decision makers, bankers can be contacted, and we can interact with them in a meaningful way to get some ideas from them because they are all already experienced. Instead of interacting with the users who are all totally new for this concept, when we are able to interact with the people who are all existing in the field, we may get more meaningful information that may be a vital one for our research sometimes. Then focus group. As I told you earlier, the study group as a focus group, we can simultaneously we can have a control group or reference group. This one will be a parameter, another one will be a study. Then we can then and there we can compare how aspects are deviating or differing. Accordingly, we can record the observations and differences. So focus groups, we can have focus groups in exploratory research studies as well as the descriptive studies too, and analysis of selected cases. Case discussions, case analysis is also one of the methods of research. We said case studies or one particular case can be considered or one particular unit can be considered to study all the aspects, A to Z of the relevant aspects on the particular topic. That is, a complete study of a particular aspect or unit can be regarded as a case study. So it is also a part of the exploratory research studies. Then advantages of using this exploratory study. Its ability to generate many ideas that could be further explored in more controlled conditions. The same aspect may be aspect which has already been studied by someone can be studied, nothing wrong in it, but the variables must be different. The environment in which it has been studied next time should be totally different from the earlier one. Same aspect can be studied, repeated, but it should be conducted in a different, totally new or different environment. Apart from overcoming the most difficult portion of inquiry, which is the initiation for the further studies. Conclusion: exploratory research is a type of research conducted for a problem that has not been clearly defined. It helps to determine the best research design, data collection method, and selection of subjects. Already I told you. And exploratory research is not typically generalizable. Generalization of research findings is also the essential aspect. In the case of social science researchers, whether it is a exploratory research or descriptive research, people have such a question, whether the findings of the study can be generalized or applicable to other areas or other set of institutions or other set of respondents. The purpose of research is to generalize, because we are not covering all the units of the population. When we go for survey-based research studies, samples are used. The samples must be selected in such a way as to represent the characteristics of the units of the population. So that must be a representative sample. When we are using representative sample, the findings can be generalizable, provided the environment remains the same, conditions remains the same, and other determinants remains the same. If they differ widely, generalization may not be possible, or the generalization can be safely made taking into account the changed environment or conditions accordingly. It should draw definitive conclusions only with the extreme cautions. So cautiously that can be generalized. Given its fundamental nature, exploratory research often concludes with that a perceived problem does not actually exist. With this, let me conclude, and again the further slides are portraying the same aspects in a different way. So let me restrict my discussions with this, and I invite the August participants to interact with me if they have any queries, if they need any additional inputs.
Dear participants, this is the time for interaction, please.
Hello.
Hello, okay. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sorry.
Sir, I have a question that suppose I have the user study, survey study. So, in case of testing of hypothesis, which tools I should use, like SPSS is there and ANOVA 1 is there. So, ANOVA 1 I can use, or any other tools I can use for testing the hypothesis?
Okay, good. See, there are many statistical tools are available to
Sir.
test the hypothesis. Say chi-square test, ANOVA, t-test, etc. But the selection of that particular tool depends upon the nature of hypothesis for which the data we have. See, whether we have made a null hypothesis or alternate hypothesis, and what type of data set we have, that decides the nature of techniques to be applied. In consultation with the statistical experts, we can decide which is more appropriate. Sometimes chi-square test can also be used, or ANOVA can also be used. But among these two, which is more relevant, appropriate, that should be decided based on the nature of data and data set we have. What type of hypothesis we have made, it also matters.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, participants, any more clarification, please?
Any questions?
Okay, thank you, participants. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of Department of Commerce, Private University, I would like to record my sincere thanks to our Honorable Professor for sincere, very nice, amazing presentation, sir. It's your making a highly interactive session, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Dear participants, thank you very much for your valuable participation and valuable interaction. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir. Kind of you. Thank you. Shall I close?
Sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.